executive committee meeting. Roll call.
Steve? Georgia? Here. Nicole? Here. Vice President?
Invocation, please. That's our food.
We ask you to help us tonight, keep our minds focused on things that need to be done to the benefit of our students in school and community. We ask to give a blessing to all those who help coordinate this and the food, and keep us safe and sound as we travel back home.
Discussion, executive session, action items, 2.1. Annie's on the road, back from Rapid. Troy can fill in, or if not, we can call her. Also, report for your student handbooks, athletic activity manual, and coaches manual.
Yep. Good evening, board. I'll be filling in for Danny. We'll just go right down the agenda. We'll have Richard Bagnell go with the elementary school handbook. The school, Richard, the compact, is that part of yours too?
Excuse me?
The compact? Parent compact?
No, that's me.
Oh, that's you? Oh, okay.
It's me.
At summer school, PBL, swim just information, give you guys the first day of school, who showed and where we're at, how many we had the first day. Okay, that's time to go over the changes, the handbook. Page 1, what I'd like to do is the table of contents. If you guys, all documents I've seen in the past, they start with the vision, then the mission statement. So one thing I do want to change on page 1 there on top, above mission, I want to put a vision. And that vision statement is in here, in the body of this document here. So, on top of the mission statement, I want to put a mission statement. So if you ever had the opportunity and you had to review that, usually the vision statement comes first. Then go down below, the visitor policy and law enforcement, those need to go in back of the before the last page. So the appendix in the back. So I'm going to put those in the back after the bullying policy stuff. So taking right next to them, place in the back the visitor policy and law enforcement. And the second reading, I will have them in there. Okay, page 2. Those are all add-ins there. The first one, I do believe, is the one that Becky. She wanted that statement in our handbook, so you paste it right there. And after that, that's where I put the vision statement, or the mission statement there. Then, right after that is the mission statement itself. Okay. Can we move on? The highlighted part here, harassment in the workplace, that's the information Danny wanted within our handbook, so we put it right there. Okay. Page 4, same. Page 5, same. Page 6. What I need to tweak up is I need to put in, insert the times on page 6. So in that second reading, those little times will be in there. For instance, immersion phase in kindergarten will be between 11:30 and 11:50. T1 will be 11:40 to 12 o'clock. First grade, 12:10 to 12:40. So I'm going to put those times in there. Insert those times on the commons area table assignments. So insert those times there for the second reading. Any question?
Richard, it's on page 3 on your harassment.
Yep.
Any bullying in social media or on social media? Just one word. Does it matter or? This includes the bullying, any bullying in social media or should it be on social media?
Okay, we can change. Other thing I was talking about was, I was sort of seeing last year. So on page 6, they said insert the times. The time the students will go to the cafeteria. So for instance, next to the face and kindergarten, 11:30, 11:50. So next to each grade will be a time. I'll have that in the second meeting. As you go through, you see things you missed. Okay, next change is on page 8. At the top. That's where we'll put the information we have on the Facebook page, COIA community registration.
Richard, will you include the local stations, Valentine and Jupiter? Some of us don't have Facebook, as you kind of, the local stations are out.
So you put it on Valentine 95.5.
99?
What is it?
99.5?
Okay.
That's Valentine.
That's the only one there. 94.52.
That's what I do. I mean, I get it really good here.
Up here?
That's fine.
Is it 94.5?
93.7
94%.
93.7.
on your head.
93.7. Winner.
93.7. 99.5, 93.7. Okay, now further down the page, has to do with the truancy. That's a policy that was given to us, we just put the date on there. Dated April 20, 2020, local student tribe education policy. It's in there. The truancy policy, they can refer to that if they give that out, it's kind of thick down. Let's put that in there. Okay, that. Moving on, page 9, at the top, you see K6, council of K5. In the previous handbook, it had like 5, we didn't have a high proficiency, and 4P for proficient, they didn't have those in it. So we fleshed that out, put those in there. Page 11, we can exchange. We had concerns when we took children home in the evening at 5, they're going home. And we'll take the children to the alternate site and we'll get home. So we stay at school and try to take them to other places, but I think it's the parent's responsibility to be home, make an alternative site drop off to the child. If that doesn't happen, if we're down here, if no one is home, we refer to law enforcement. We put some responsibility on the parents to be able to drop their child off.
How long are we gonna keep them at the school?
Whatever it takes. Last time we brought a child back. That's when the child jumped in with a relative and took off in the van. We called PD and PD tracked them down in the van. They come back and I think we were there till 6 o'clock one time. It was after 6 and so stay there until we don't leave the child there with custodians and security. We wait here until law enforcement or parent or guardian stop by to pick that child up. So whatever it takes, we need to be there until someone come after that child.
Would truancy play a part in that, or receipt? Just receipt.
Not truancy, because that's alcoholism and stuff. It's just a matter of the social life, the parent not being there. To do the responsibility to be able to drop the child off, If they're not there, they make different arrangements. In a enrollment packet, they have that alternate site drop off and different numbers. We try to get those numbers and call and can't get hold of them, can't get hold of the alternate site. Someone's got to call it. Law enforcement. Anything else, Adam? much same as last year's handbook, no changes. For a second reading, I wanted to look at taking that discipline, this particular matrix out. When I discipline with the consequences and stuff, I didn't care for that. Because first infraction, warning, second, half day, school suspension, 1 day ISS, like that. I didn't care for that. So we'll take a look at changing that around.
The pages up,
Huh?
the page.
16.
Discipline, page 16. And it runs into 17 and has this thing right here, very good. I really didn't care for this right here. Consequences. I know middle school and high school is going to start justice.
Next year, not this year, next year.
I didn't care for this that much. Try a different way. So we'll finish that now. It's good. I want to change it to the second reading. That number 20, on page 23 is more of a thing I'd like to follow, is that the way it's the bullying prevention program. Take a look at that in more detail. It's already been approved by the board, it's just a matter of tweaking it up. And establish a bullying prevention coordination committee and all that stuff. We had that. Trying to get back to that. So that's what we want to go with this. Take out the consequences and the punishments and stuff. The counseling, it's the social aspect. So take a look at doing that things. I think the next reading could maybe July and final readings, August sometime, and send it to print. So something like that.
No.
Is this it? All over tonight?
I would suggest to have another meeting on the following week, next week sometime.
When?
Next week sometime.
Pressure.
It takes a while.
Take a look at that. Okay. Get to the technology part, that's always a big deal there. Document, you got some things that's it's a good document. Technology aspect. Page 30 is the local sewer tribal law and code code. Its own definitions. Look at that challenge records. And after child abuse on page 32, 5-85, I wanted to put this visitor policy and law enforcement. After page 32. I think that's where it goes. You don't get right into that. I think you need to get into the vision and mission statement right away. Okay. Put it on page 32. Last thing I got is on page 33. It should read the second line. Should have 22, 23. Still got 21, 22. Change that. That's it. One question you might have.
We do a print and a sign. It's almost that doggy handwriting you can't read. Sign, parent guardian. A print, then a sign, signature.
Okay. We want to make sure that work on a document that says to staff that they read the policy, the school policy, and personnel policy, and read the handbook. We give it to them. It's online and everything, but they don't read it. They don't want to send it, to tell you the truth. I'm going to create a document and give it to them beginning of the school year before we start that says that we read the handbook, policy, that they don't sign it. There's no sign it on the file, you sign it right here. So that's going to come as a signature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Williams for the middle school.
Good evening, board and coworkers. Hello. Okay, so the middle school handbook is coming right out of the high school middle school book. So I did not change a lot. What I did do is learn to work smarter, not harder. So I didn't reinvent the wheel. Everything's coming right out of here. So what I did do is give you the table of contents. Everything that I marked was what I took out. That's high school stuff. So that's what I moved out. So it's kind of like a guide. The second thing I need to let you know is I was working harder, not smarter, and I messed up all the numbers. So the numbers on the set that I gave Marlene that starts here in the middle school book has a table of contents. Ignore the numbers, they are not correct. They are not correct. So that is one thing that I'll need to do is just put the numbers to the correct context. So I'll start at the beginning. First thing I changed is it no longer says middle and high school, it just says middle. So on the table of contents, those are all the same things I included in the book, what's required of us. The only thing is that the numbers don't match up. That's the only thing. So our first change is on what is called page 5. And that's where we put the new things in the handbook, where it's the harassment and the law enforcement. Those are the two new motions we put in our handbook. Page 6, only thing I changed is it doesn't say high school, it says middle school. The only thing I changed. Page 7, What I did down here is, all I changed was the last sentence where it says if we are using our maps for progress reports and how we're placing students, we're going to use our data to place us into curriculums in our study hall classrooms. That's the only thing I changed. So matching up the maps to what we need to do in study hall. Page 8, it used to say high school and middle school gifted program. Nothing changed for there. All it does now say is middle school. Page 9, everything's still the same. It doesn't say high school, middle school. It just says middle school now. MS. The next page is really big and bold, and I'll work to change the font. That's our. That is our L schedule. It's just really, really big font. I just need to correct the font. That's all that's changed. Nothing on page 11. Nothing on page 12. Nothing on page 13. Nothing on page 14. The dress code stuff on page 15. This is what they're presenting in the high school on how we're going to do the dress expectations. So we kept them the same. We're in the same building, so we're going to follow the same thing. So we're all following the same policy in the middle school and high school when it comes to dress. Page 17, personal electronic devices. Use the same thing Gina did. We're allowing cell phones, but we're putting them into criteria of how you can use them appropriately, and if you don't, what are the consequences to take them away? Same as high school. Be easier on our kids. Didn't change nothing on 18, change nothing on 19, nothing on 20, nothing on 21. The only thing on page 22 is where we added to the closed campus. Of course, our students go over to the elementary building for gifted too. So we're just requiring that we have a approved paper pass. So it's the same as how the high schools go into that building. 23 did not change anything about the excuse, the transfer policy. The student behavior stayed the same. 25, the universal consequence system is the same as the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. We're all on the same page with that. Didn't change anything else.
What's a school approved paper pass? What is that? Someone forged it or last time or?
Yeah, I think sometimes our kids get those blue passes and take them, or the pink passes for nurses are pink, so kids know the color and what they are. So really it has to just say to go to the elementary building, which we have. That would be fine. Yeah, we have good schools. They figure it out quick. Okay. Nothing on 28, nothing on 29. On page 30, the bus rules expectations, it used to just say 6 to 12, now it just says 6 to 8. Nothing else has changed. The only thing that I have changed is on page 32 of the book, or on mine. Okay, this is where I made a change. Page 33. Into the behavior matrix. All I did is where it is yellow. I am going to start in the middle school. We're going to try to use restorative practices. So all I did was put it to the beginning of all our consequences, because that's where it starts. On the second page, it says refer to the menu. That's the menu on the bottom. And all I did was mix them up with some things that pertain more to us. So that's the only thing I really changed. And right there in the beginning is why we changed it. The middle school is trying, and I think I have a typo, I should say is supporting behavior and restorative practices to reduce the punitive nature of consequences and create an approach that allows for students to remain in school and learn from their mistakes when possible and appropriate from the restorative menu. why the menu's down there. The whole emphasis is every time so one of our students breaks an infraction, first thing you want to try is talking them through it, see if they can make a better choice, see if they choose the consequences from the menu that is more meaningful to themselves, because that's what we want. We want it to stop after that stops. That's how we know it works, or we wouldn't have to go into the second consequence, the third consequence, the fourth. So we're putting it, starting, give it a try in the middle school, and start teaching the students like that. Trying to not make it punitive, but make it meaningful so that they will change their behavior without giving them ISS and all that. So we built that in. Other than that, I didn't change anything else on any other pages. Everything else is standard and required to be in the handbook. The technology, the discipline of students with disabilities in section 4, kept it all in there, didn't take anything out. And the last thing I changed was our parent guardian student responsibility agreement now says 6 to 8. And we still nothing else. First reading. Any questions? Yes. No.
On page 30, the drop-off sites, I wonder if we should have it consistent with the elementary drop-off.
The bus drop-off sites? Oh, right here, okay. I'll add that in make sure. Elementary. Okay. Anything else?
We just have to print your name and sign it, so you know who signs it.
Oh, on the last page?
Yeah. Print it,
Oh.
sign, signature.
Oh, yeah, that's on page 47, that one? Yeah. And like I said, I will redo and make sure that the numbers match up.
Are we gonna have like the poster size around the school, just for certain parts of these behaviors, whatever, or?
Yep, and I know, I've seen them in the high school building, and we have them in the elementary where we print those big laminate posters of the universal procedures. They are in the hallways of our buildings.
Any questions? Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Gina, is it high school?
Good evening, board. All right, so we're going to get started on page 5, harassment in the workplace. I think we all have the same narrative. We actually copied and pasted this right from start with this email with this suggestion in there, so I'll fix that. And then further down on page 5, we have the same addition that Becky wanted to just add in because we had an issue with this year, so we'll have to clarify information for law enforcement investigations. And then on page 6, we added in that freshman students must have completed the entire academic year of 8th grade and graduated 8th grade prior to being admitted as a 9th grade student. Because one of the issues we had this year is that we had students who didn't graduate 8th grade and then were trying to just enroll in 9th grade. And the parent would write down a grade and it wasn't even correct, so then they would try to sneak into 10th grade. You know, so it made it a lot of mess. So we just put this in here to just clarify to parents that they have to actually finish one grade at this time before skipping two. And a lot of them came from Black Mountain actually this year. So we weren't sure if finish 8th grade. After school and came out and just tried to just be passed on. The next change is on page 12. We added a little tiny small print disclaimer. According to this grading scale, a passing grade is a D- or 60%. And we put that in there because a lot of students and parents say, well, what is passing? So Barb said, well, we'll just add it, clarify them. And we have some students who want that 60 just to pass. I shouldn't say it like that. Because all the classes are really tough. So like, I just want to pass this class. Okay, so then we added in page 18. I found this whole thing on prompts. I've been researching all over to see how we can add it because we don't have a lot of anything to regulate prompts. So I found a lot of this from the Rapid City schools that I thought was really good, to ensure that prom rules, regulations, like what's allowed, how to be responsible for their behavior, the guidelines. We got some really cool permission slips from like Todd County and White River School saying, is your student, and I had to write sign that the student was passing in order to attend their proms. And I was like, why don't we have something like that in place here? So then I started researching to find this to make sure we have as much rigor as everyone else. That's why I added that section in there. And then page 19 is the dress code. We have what's in yellow is added, what's not was already there. So if you look, we did have some expectations, but this was such an issue for us this year. So what I did put, for encouraging students, to respect the educational environment and maintain standards. And so we thought that was good enough, but there was such an issue, we just want to clarify for sure what's allowed and what's not allowable. And I know I gave this to the student council originally, back in, I think it was September. And I said, we are going to be redoing the dress code this year. Meet as a student council and discuss it and kind of see what suggestions you guys have and, how you feel about it. And so they had time to discuss it. I think one of them started the PowerPoint and didn't really finish it. And so time came and went, I checked in on them, see how it's going. Nothing really came out of it. So then I just started researching something to add in that's a little bit more specific. So that's basically what that is.
I have a question. On page 8, everybody should have current ID. So page some of our kids don't have IDs.
What's the page?
18?
118? Oh, this could be student ID even.
Okay. If you want,
Yeah, because we kind of started that this year already. Terry kind of helped us make some student IDs for seniors and stuff.
you can clarify that student ID.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And then our next one that we did is on page 21. We actually had a lot of discussion with the students, with the teachers. I've been presented this to some parents from our work group about cell phones. And so I'm taking out the red and I want to add in this more specific disciplinary, like first offense, this is what's going to happen, second offense. And I borrowed this from, I believe I borrowed this from Top County. It's a mixture of Top County and Rapid, because they already have really good cell phone policies for cell phones. So, because one of the problems we're having now is just like, there's nothing strong in here. We just have, we can see disciplinary procedures, but we don't really have a good disciplinary for something. So we thought if we actually put it in here, we spell it out and go over with the students and families, then they'll know. Usually when a student violates a cell phone policy and I call the family, they're very supportive of it. They'll take the phone right home, or they encourage us to do whatever we need to do. So we haven't had a lot of that kind of issues with families. So So that kind of spells out what happened the first time. Of course, fourth offense, they have to, parent has to meet with me to determine what we're going to do. The next one is on page 26. And this one is for a closed campus policy. You're only permitted to travel between educational buildings for educational services or reasons. I didn't think I had to add this in here. Then we have students who are just like wandering around campus. I'm like, where are you going over to the business office? They stop and get a snack on their way to GAD. Well, we're still on campus. I'm like, yeah, but you can't just hang out at the bus garage or go anywhere. So I added, well, it's not in the handbook. They're so smart, you know. And I was like, okay, I'm going to add it now. So I had to add that little line in there. Just because our wanderers are around getting snacks. Okay, page 28 has our transfer policy. We added this line in here because we had students who are enrolling into school who are over 18. And here at our school, they can only go to school till they're 21. And so sometimes when they're enrolling like close to 21 where they don't really have a realistic chance of graduating because there's just time runs out before they can finish. So then we thought what we should do is have a committee that looks at each enrollment packet when they're over 18 to say, is this realistic? Can this kid actually graduate in time? Is there any kind of behavior concerns? And so this creates that process for high school. So everyone will have a chance to, because some people know a bit more, you know, like they come from Hong Kong, some of them know that, and then they have actually to it. So that way we can help them make the best choice for themselves. Okay, page 30. I put in the school approved paper pass because we had teachers who were like had grapes, like plastic grapes. And so then that kid would be carrying that grape to the bathroom. And the homeowners were like, that's not a real pass. Like, that could be anything, you know. They just got too creative and then that created issues for our security. So I thought, no, let's put that aside and just have school approved paper pass. So that's why it's added in there.
One of them had a big giant. A big giant. What do you call those? Protractor?
Oh yeah, ruler thing, yeah. It was like a circuit board for computers. We're getting a little hands, so I just added that in. And I added this in for the consequences because we already do this, like have them have a verbal warning and write apology. Deb has me work on this already. So that's kind of good, and so I just put it in place with our doing. And then the last one is on page 38. And we already do this, but it didn't say it in here. So for third infraction of fighting, assault or fighting, we haven't had to do this yet, but up to 10 days of OSS referral to the school board for expulsion hearing. We've only ever made it as far as infraction 2. So we met, we had superintendent meetings with students, and so we thought we better add in the next one, just in case. Hopefully we'll never get that far. Have it in writing. Somebody can say, well, it's not in your handbook, you know. But I will add in the print signature on page 51 too. Make sure that's in there. And the bus drop-off site on page 35, I'll add that in as well. That's it for high school.
I had something go through my mind where we were speaking kind of, middle school as well, involved in it, but when we talk about, middle schoolers that are aged out or promotion, is there anything on your end that has, or Teresa, of having some type of committee? Because the scenario, it's happened before, not with you guys in your position, but a few years ago, we had a 16-year-old kid on Friday was in 8th grade, and then that Monday was a freshman. and wasn't prepared for the maths, wasn't prepared for the sciences, and we looked 3 years later and the kid ended up dropping out. But I think if we're going to look at the older kids and have this type of committee on getting them their diploma, I think the middle and high schools should have something in place as well as these age promotions or social promotions, whatever they call it.
Well, in high school, you can't social promote because they're doing credits.
I mean, if you're going to accept a kid from, I mean, I got at the end of the first quarter, he's no longer in 8th grade because he's 16, and they put him in high school. I just feel there should be a process there.
Yeah,
Well,
that's,
5th grade to 6th grade.
So, yeah, exactly. So we're not
that's why
harming.
we added it in page 6, where they have to complete the entire academic year. Because we did have that happen, like 4 or 5 kids.
So based on this, then there shouldn't be any mid-year promotions.
Not in the high school. I would recommend adding it to middle school and elementary. But I would think, like, just to add it,
Okay.
just to add a committee, because there are some students down there.
Right. I just think, I mean, I can see the idea behind it or not, but at the same time, does that really help that student?
Right.
And I think in some cases, well, if I'm being honest, I think most cases, especially here, it probably does more harm than good, because they're not going to do that. And the reason why at 16, they were still in the middle school.
And it could even have been a
It sounded
child.
that way.
Good point.
Yeah, that's very good point.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, guys.
We'll go with Trevor with the athletic.
All right, I got 2, and then I didn't want to highlight this whole thing with the probably in yellow. So I just explained. I just switched up the whole format of it. I just created a little bit better flow to it. And one thing just after listening, I'm going to add in there on like the student misconduct. I'm going to make sure that we follow the schools misconducts and stuff, just so we're not confusing them.
Disciplinary levels?
Yeah. Then that same thing, I'll add that to the coaches as well. We'll follow the employee handbook on that. So I'll add that in there too. But really, I didn't want to have this so thick that, you know, parents and students are just like going to the back page and signing it, you know, and saying, all right, here. You know, I wanted it to be just like, yeah, I didn't want it to be too thick. So going off of, I guess what I did add was the introduction. So in the introduction, right off, I have a letter to the student athletes written by myself. You guys can read that, kind of just encouraging them throughout their academic and athletic careers at St. Francis and good school. So I just like wrote a welcoming letter. And then an introduction, I had this introduction specifically for the parents to let them know that we are a part of the South Dakota High School Activities Association, so we have to follow their rules. And one thing that I want to do for parent meetings next year is hand out their handbooks as well. And I didn't want to put too much of their stuff into here. So that's what the introduction is, and goes off to like our activities. So I have it broken down into academic, leadership, social, and athletic activities. Then the vision. I added a vision for the athletics, our core values, our mission statement. But our mission statement, it does promotes the overall mission of St. Francis Indian School. So that kind of like a little bit with our core goals, added that as well. Put the chain of command right at the top, because I think that's very important for us, for the parents, the coaches, myself, the school board, the principals, and everything too. I think it's very important to have that up there, because sometimes you guys hear problems that we don't even know about, you know, so making sure that, you know, that's the most important, because like I said before, a lot of the along with a simple conversation. You know, just want to make sure we have more simple conversations first before blowing it up or taking these steps. Then the filing complaint, this I put the complaint forms in here, but I also put in there that they could locate them at the high school, because I just want to have them separately so that they don't have to pull out or rip out from the handbook too. Then the enrollment, transfer, this kind of other policies and procedures. Student absent and tardiness, that's pretty big right there. There's a big section right there. I want to make sure that we're making sure our students are coming to school first and getting to class on time. Transportation, this section will be a little bit more thicker for the coaches and stuff. I know last year there were some issues with transportation, so I want to make sure that our parents and guardians know that we're taking transportation very serious this upcoming year. So with that being said, I'm having coaches, the head coach, assistant coach, either text or call me when they leave the school, and text and call me when they get back. So, you know, but say I don't answer, they'll just send me a text saying we left the school, our middle school volleyball left the school at 8 o'clock today. Just keep me updated on that.
Are you going to be traveling with like certain games, like the rivalry games? Are you going to be going on with them just to watch the student and fan behavior, I guess?
Yeah. You know
what I mean?
I kind of want to try to get to a lot of the games, whether it's a rival or not, just to do that support. I know most times I like to do the admin too. For the schools. So yeah, I'll be traveling. In the students' conference, like I said, we have some stuff in there, but just want to kind of support the schools or the principals' handbooks when it comes to that.
Get back to your South high school activities. Let's say football, as apparently you bring in the football rules from the state, basketball, their rules. So that kind of, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So overall, this happened because they have that, just the overall rules and then each sports rules. So we're breaking that down and giving that to them as well. The school property, I put that in there because I know that we have seniors and stuff that check out uniforms and all that, so make sure we have a process with that. And also, I did add at the back of the page, like Dave said, the print section is the print their name. And the eligibility requirements, it has the South Dakotas, but also has our St. Francis schools eligibility process. And then I kind of put the steps in there so parents know what the process is. And that, so I try to kind of explain that as simple as possible with following them steps. Kind of with our athletic activities handbook, and now to our coaching handbook. So the coaching handbook, I kind of just put in the same introduction, mission, vision, core goals, and then with our policies. I didn't add all of the ones that were in this one, like the filing, I put the filing of complaint in there, the student absences. I didn't put that in there because I feel like the coaches should know this handbook as well. This one is just strictly for like the coaching part of it. This, like again, I put the chain of command, transportation. So. Yeah, this transportation part kind of emphasized on, we're going to take that a lot serious this year.
Some of the discussion with the two is we have some staff that have the CDLs, So like this year, when, former transportation guy either wanted to get us a driver or not, there was some money that were required to talk to the superintendent where we had some staff volunteered to say, I can be your driver for the season. And then we don't have to worry about any of that or any overtime issues with the bus driver or anything like that as well. So that's something we're looking at.
Last year, some of the parents wanted female to be the driver for the girls, so they worked that out.
So we drove, I know I drove 75% of the season.
Then I have the coach's expectations, and how I wrote this down is there's three main components: professionalism, accountability, and communication. I feel like within three components, we should be able to have a good relationship with our parents, our community, and our teachers and principals. I have a South Dakota High School Activities Association section on here, so that kind of explains like the coaches' educational programs, so like the tests and stuff that we were talking about, making sure that all coaches have been fundamentals of coaching, career stage, all that done. And it breaks down the eligibility, the in and out of season periods, the definition of a coach, a little bit of the private lessons, coaches and private lessons, the floor contact rule, it's the open gym, open road, open gym policy. They also put in like our bounds, so in that section, the varsity bound is now called bound, and that's kind of where our schedules, our updates, or anything specific towards the team that the coaches can update for the South Dakota, the state of South Dakota. That's all right there. And then just more information on just a little bit more information. Oh, and last, I put in just like the resource page and stuff to help our new coaches navigate through having conversations with parents, creating practice plans. So when you have to put in for like our elementary coaches, like copy and paste the NBA junior, they have a curriculum for practices. Middle school, so actually I have this broken down into resources for elementary coaches, middle school coaches, and high school coaches.
There's nothing in here on dress code.
Dress code? Okay.
No jeans, slacks.
That's one thing like I didn't know if it was appropriate, but I would like for our students to have, like slacks, khakis on home games, dressing with a tie or, business casual basically for our student athletes on home games. But I know that financial situations could
Warm-ups, team warm-ups,
yeah, for away games, we have travel gear, but for home games, I would really like to kind of dress to impress. And also, too, like with our banquets and stuff, I want to make sure them are more formal. So, our students are coming in dressed nice, our parents are coming in dressed nice. That's one thing I like about Haskell is we have them sports banquets, and they tell us to dress to impress.
You look good, you play good.
Yeah. As long as you're not dressed like you're going to the club. But no, I have this dress code. That's a good recommendation.
Especially for our coaches and.
That's one thing I was gonna add for our coaches because I want to say some names, but one coach who likes wearing a visor, and I just want to make sure that that visor wasn't being worn inside.
Also, back to the student one on page 11, just a comment about the 7th to 8th graders. I know it says here they can pick both. I know in the past we usually had when the team, the max score ends, they can move up, I guess.
So that's one thing that was kind of like, I was a little confused about because through the state, they could play both, but they just, so the 7-quarter rule. So say if you had a middle school and high school game on the same day, they have to follow them 7 quarters. But I think that the only reason why I would allow them to go back and forth is because say we move up a middle school player and they're just shocked for it, and they want to move back. So I'm going to allow them to have that option to move back because when I got to run high school track as an 8th grader, but I ran it at the end of the season, and the only reason why I ran it at the end of the season is because they told me I had to either pick middle school or high school. And after also when I was an 8th grade, I only got to run 2 high school track meets. And after running them, I was like, man, I wish I would have just done the whole season in high school. But it was the fact that I had that option to only do middle school or high school. So kind of just gave them an option with that. Trying to get that English. Any other questions? Alrighty.
Good, thank you.
Were all these second readings or first readings?
Joe, came out of Joe, which is school contract, parent school contract.
Throw me on. Good evening. So the parent school compact had been presented pretty much through the whole year, on and off, with different groups as possible. And this was the result of the input from staff, parents, and some students. What I would like to do next year, this coming year, is to make a bigger push, if you will, for parent involvement. Definitely enlarge our efforts to get information to parents. So the first thing I'd like is that the parent compact for next year be approved and that it be incorporated into all the school handbooks. Somewhere, in the back. Somewhere, all the parent handbooks. Or all the handbooks. Appendix. Back where they sign everything. So, and like I said, the goal for next year, or the effort for next year, would be to enlarge on parent involvement. So to me, the first thing is to make sure it's in the handbook so parents know what it is. That's what I would propose.
workshop. The budget, everything.
Workshop.
Yeah.
But, well, yes, that,
Everything moves.
that is on the list of parent information or parent training sessions, budgets, their role, our role, what pathway they should follow for this effort or that issue. To try to clarify some of the things that seem to keep cropping up this year. You're never going to get 100%, but at least it's there as far as if they got an issue with a particular thing, here's how you address it. We need that tonight as far as a motion. Any other questions?
You have the original form to sign.
The original form. I'll put the print your name on the bottom.
Any questions for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Keeps us happy, Joe. Keeps us happy. Keeps us happy.
So this is the budget that I need approved. It's due on the 30th, but I'd like to send it in early just in case they do changes again like they did last year. The first page is the school's requesting the entire estimated amount of the IDA Part B funds, and that's $985,557. That's what we're requesting. That's over the ISEP funds and stuff. That's that form. I did put I still have to fill in the address up here. I got with it. That will get sent in. The next page, if you skip to the third or the fourth page, I stapled it wrong. These are the assurances that have to be signed by the school board president here. And the number one is talking about free appropriate public education. Number two is that the schools eligible for assistance under the part for fiscal year, and such agency submits a plan that provides assurances to BIE that the school meets the following conditions. The LEA is providing for the education of children with disabilities within its jurisdiction, has the effect policies, procedures, and programs that are consistent with the state policies and procedures, and those that we have, those now that were approved by the board. Number three talks about child find that will identify, locate, and evaluate children. Number four is that will develop individualized education programs according to the law. Number five is the least restricted environment, that they'll be educated with children who are non-disabled in special classes, separating school or other removal of children with disabilities from the regular education environment occurs only when the nature or severity of the disability of the child is such that education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services cannot be achieved. So we have to try our best to put it, educate the student with their non-disabled peers. First page, number 6, talks about the procedural safeguards. So every time we meet with the parent, we have to offer them their safeguards, those are the parental rights. Number 7 is evaluating the children according to the law. Number 8 is confidentiality of records. Number 9, responsible for ensuring that the requirements of Part B are met, including the requirements of the policies and procedures established under Section 612. Number 10 talks about related services or any other interagency that we have an agreement with. Number 11 states that we'll have highly qualified staff working with the children. Number 12, goals for the performance of children with disabilities. Number 13, all children with disabilities are included in all general, state, and school-wide assessments. They're all included there. Funds, number 14, funds paid to the school under this part will be expended in accordance. That's allowable costs. Number 15, prior to the adoption of any policy, have input from parents. Presented that at one of Joel's Title I meetings to the parents. They didn't have any questions at all on it. Number 16 pertains students' materials to blind persons or other persons that need print that have print disabilities. 17 talks about inappropriate over-identification or disproportionate representation by race when you evaluate and make sure that we're not over-identifying students. Number 18, the school shall prohibit personnel from requiring a child to obtain a prescription for substance covered by control. So that's like if a child has ADHD, we can't say that they have to be on medication to come to school. Number 19, the school shall provide data reports to the BIE. That's all the paperwork that has to go to the BIE. Number 20 talks about the allowable costs and accounting procedures. And then 21, I believe, has to do with facilities. So those are the assurances that have to be done. And then this is the next page is the people who need to sign it. So Dave, Danny, and Sherry. The next page is the budget cover sheet. So the top part, for this school year, we had 110 students with disabilities under ISEP eligibility. The number 1 is the ISEP plus the carryover that we had, which comes up to 891,000. The number 2 is the carryover of Part B. Number 3 is what we're asking for the allocation for this year. And the number 4 would be the total amount of the special education budget. Number 5, we don't have any we don't participate in the CAU's cooperative agreements. And then number 6, we're not doing the CEIS. That's it. You can use 15% of your budget to do intervention in the school, or if we have enough carryover to cover something in the school. And then the total down there, Danny will sign the bottom of this one. And then the budget, I tried to get it where it printed out, but it doesn't print out the pages. It prints out the pages, but doesn't print out the whole column on some of them. So number A is the residential placement. We don't have any students in residential right now, but you never know if we're going to have anyone. So there always should be money in there. Number B1 is the SPED personnel, and it doesn't have it all there, but basically what it is, it talks about all the teacher salaries, the line item that it's coming out of, how many students we have, how many teachers we have. And then on the bottom part that you can't see talks about the summer ESY for next year and recruitment and retention of teachers. And then on the top there too, it talks about the salaries. On the first part. So ISEP, that amount of money will come out of ISEP, and then the allocation that we're asking for is the 48,000 there, and then that's the something. And then it's the same with special ed paraprofessionals. So you'll see the amount that's coming out of ISEP, the amount that's coming out of Part B, and then the amount that we're asking for. And then the total. Substitute teacher, we don't really use one, but if we need one, they have to be certified. So we put a little money in there just in case. Special education coordinator, Part B and allocation is there. We don't have adaptive PE instructor. Number 6, secondary transition, that's the salary there. That's the salary of that person. Job coach. I have to change that. That's not, it should just be the FTE is full-time employee. That should just be a 1. The job coach, we have 1, and then a person that's a bus driver and part-time job coach. So we have 1.5, and that's their salaries there. Adaptive supplies and materials, that's for teachers. Every teacher gets $500 for their classroom, and they don't allow any more than that. And the reason why there's 250 is because the general ed and SPED are sharing 1 teacher. Assistive technology, that's the one I put in there. That's kids that if we need to have a student, they have to be, if they need assistive technology, they have to have a report. They have to be evaluated, go through a report, assessment report, and then we buy the materials that they need. Number 3 is adaptive instructional supplies. That's anything from the programs that we use to transition assessments. There's a lot that, when there are copy machine expenses, that's what that is. Adaptive equipment is if we need something on the playground for a student, if we get a student that has a wheelchair, if they need walkers, anything like that, that comes out of that budget right there. And then Part B.
Electric scooters allowable?
Electric scooters?
Students? Not allowable?
I don't know. I don't know if they come out, it's necessary.
Right into the IEP if it's
Yeah, it's in
necessary.
the, so they have to have that assessment, assistive technology assessment from somewhere, either the doctor or something. But the Part D is staff training, that's in-house training, and when we send out someplace, we're there, and it talks about all the training that we'll be hopefully sending teachers to or parents to this year, next year. Students with the number 2 is the work study. So they'll go to like college visits, catch the wave, any type of, if they're doing their ASVAB, if they recruiters, anything to do with transition will come out of that line item right there, and work study. Transportation, that's to maintain the vehicles, and half of the bus driver salary comes out of this line item right here. School, the rest of it is all related services under the contract that we signed the last board meeting. So we have the school psychologist, psychologist, and those are the salaries, which contract is. Physical therapist, occupational therapist, audiology, we send those out if they need the audiology, if the Medicare don't pay for it. Social worker, that's a school-wide person, so we don't pay that. Clinic, we have 2 counselors, one for K-5 and one for middle school, high school. The middle school, high school one is a vacant position that's being advertised. We still haven't gotten anyone hired for that. We don't need an interpreter. And then there's parent training. And then it tells what trainings that we would like to send them to. Some of it's cut off, but we did send some to the South Dakota Special Ed thing in a conference in Sioux Falls. There's one in New Mexico that we didn't send last year this past year due to COVID, and we'd like to send a couple there. Then child find activities, and then this other is the 2 parent liaisons and the office manager. And then it tells the total down there and the other. So that's the whole budget. I don't really need signatures today, but I'd like to have them by the 17th, so I can get it sent in by the 17th. Last year when I sent it in, they wanted to go over it with me, the main people, so I don't want to be late on it, because we signed that good faith letter, and we're not supposed to be late on anything anymore, so I'd like to get it in a little early.
Any motions in need or?
And just if we're going to get it approved and then get it signed, hopefully maybe tomorrow or the next day. I'd like Danny to look at it too.
Okay, motion for approval, any other report? Georgia moves, and the second, Nicole. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Opposed, 0, not voting 0. Motion carried. Also need a motion to consider the parent-student compact 22-23 school year. Nicole moves, second by Georgia. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Opposed, 0, not voting 0. Motion carried. This is just the first reading of the handbook, so. You got a motion for it? To accept the first reading? Handbooks?
No, but you need to make a motion for the next executive committee meeting. With the 20th, next Monday. You okay? Okay.
We don't want to work on Monday, right? Federal holiday, the 20th. That will work. Yeah, 52-week employees meet the 20th and 24th off.
So not the 20th. That's a bad day.
The 23rd, then we'll be here back to class.
Isn't it here though?
Yeah, the 23rd and 24th should be gone.
Second Street.
21st. Oh. It's not 21st Street.
21st. Okay. 27? Yeah. 27?
And do the final readings on the 29th.
27th and final on
29th, yeah. That's good. Good night.
17th. Let's do it.
So it'll be gone, right? You'll be on medical
Yep, on the 17th.
on the 17th.
Audit for today, no prior. So on the 20th.
Okay. Need a motion for set meeting June 20th, Monday. I said earlier, but I got training. Pushing that means. I got senior training. Or security, what do you call it? 5:30. 5 o'clock. Georgia moves 5:30, 27. Say goodbye to Nicole. One of my favorite. Huh? 20th. 20th, yeah. That's what I said. Oh, that, 20th. 20th at 5:30.
A second.
Nicole second. All in favor again. 1, 2, 3. Opposed, 0. Opposed, 0. Motion carried.
Are you done? 2 more, or 3 more actually. I guess one's just the student count accepted by the BIE. It says see attachment. I don't know if you guys want something. She did?
She did send it to me.
Okay, so we will move on. Danny was selected as the Class 3 Superintendent representative to the South Dakota High School Activities Association. There's an email attached. And then, I guess, probably some information from Nicole. Janet Weiland, United States Secretary of the Treasury, will be here on SFIS campus June 21st from 11 to 8 p.m. The attachment in there kind of shows what they want. They want, little watch some of the cultural stuff, the traditional meals, things of that nature. I guess on our end, I think it's our copy. Was there a budget or something approved for this? So we wanted to get the right information out to Alan and Dwayne because they're kind of getting it up on our end for it as well. Food service, child. The president's office will take them on the tour and stuff beforehand, right? The afternoon meeting. Yeah, we can utilize our gym. So I think Secret Service coming in to do a sweep or something this week. Yeah. And then get everything ready for them to come on 21st.
That's your best.
Add your inserts now. Church. I think that's it. And the security handbook leads program. I think he might, safety or this safety officer, so they should. See that as well. We should. Everything's going on in the world. And they just completed some training, good training the past 5 days of it. I think it was the guys that came down last year, so some of them got a refresher and some other ones it was the first time taking it. So. Anybody that will see the days,
No. But I think they did some type of, yeah, I think they did use batons, I think, or they covered everything. I don't know how in depth they got, but yeah. It was good.
Bring back next meeting.
Oh, for okay.
Anything else? Good.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
The motion for adjourn.
Are we going to do our teachers?
The what?
My two teachers?
Was told personnel,
Okay.
regular, not
And
executive.
personnel? Okay.
From 27th or 29th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn it. Nicole, second by Cook.